Ducktales, 20 years later, episode 9. The room was sealed away, sealed from the deep, permanent winter outside, as well as the sardonic, cool people, beaten down into uniform marts or societies by the waves of utility, totality. Within, the faint glow of magic warmed the freezing house. Leonard's sighs of incantations and fantastic waves of fingers and hands punctured the quickly warming air, pushing against the sealed windows, trying to find a way out of the stuffy hut and up and out into the heavens. Soon, the glow became golden, and soon after red. Two items laid in the center of the room, illuminating with the dual colors, obscuring their form with their sheer brightness. A dry cackle emanated from the throat of the spell weaver as wrinkled, ancient figures hovered over the burning glow of the twin objects. This was 2 weeks before our story began, in the small, independent nation of Thembria, where plans beneath cloak and dagger were status quo for most of the populace. "Welcome to Cape Suzette!" called Huey as he opened up the passenger door on the sea deck, letting his three companions out into the sunny, equatorial embrace of the island paradise. First, Huey, then Webby, then Louie, cursing his luck for once again being stuck in a warm, damp climate in a costume made for icy cold nights. Each passenger looked around for a moment to take in the tall, attractive architecture, letting the grandeur of it fill their eyes before the emptiness and eroded nature of them became apparent. "All these buildings," said Dewey, his mind eye mentally adding up, deducting expenses, and finding all the tax write-offs it could. "They just stand empty?" "Afraid so," answered Huey. "World War II knocked this place back into the Stone Age, and nobody has ever tried rebuilding." Louis sighed.
"Same. It's so beautiful here."
"Those buildings are quite dilapidated, but with the right gumption, this island could make for a nice tourist return." Dewey scratched his chin, dollar signs beginning to etch their way into his eyes. "Who owns them?" Huey smirked and began to walk towards the shack, near the docks where a long sign, "Hire for Hire," was written. "Well, considering the company that used to have most of this town in its back pocket was bought out by a certain McDuck Enterprises, I'd say most likely you do, Dewey." They were as in before. Those dollar signs were full on blazing to possibilities now. "Yeah, con industries." He then blinked, not surfacing from his greeny haze. "But why didn't Uncle Scrooge do anything when he owned it? It's not like him to try turning a profit with everything he had." "Cold War happened," volunteered the Green Phantom. "The island was broken and abandoned after World War II. If the Russians ever got around to launching Part 3, there may not be any island left. Not a very safe investment." "Probably saving it for later," mused Dewey. "After the east and west have cooled off, you would have set up a nice little paradise here. I could do that, couldn't I?" For ever so brief a moment Dewey was smiling, looking up at the crumbling skyline, as if an entire world of riches and treasures were waiting to be explored and uncovered. "The Cold War won't last forever, will it? Afterwards I could sit up here, make a historical playground. This place was one hell of a history after all. Sky piracy, adventure. For the wannabe adventurers, I could have daily airplane tours in famous planes like the Sea Duck. For vacationers, there's the beach site and Constant Sun. It's a lock. It is. I could take this little lump of land and. In the middle of his reverie, his face fell. Abigail, whose own face had been brightening up steadily at her boss's sudden change of mood, suddenly switched to a concern quickly.
"Dewey?"
But, Louis cut in. "But nothing doing if you're on the lam. They'll take away all your business, leave you with nothing. No business, no resort, no gold mine." "Enough, GP," admonished Huey, lightly, although his face was clearly sympathetic. "Come on, gang. I want you to all meet someone." "Hey, old man, I'm home." "Good," said a bear in a small voice. "Come over here." Huey seemed to pause for a moment as the other three ducks piled into the room. His eyebrows arched. For a moment, something seemed to miss. Then Swing shrug. Anything, anything happened while I was gone?" "Yes. Productivity in the community is up 15%. Sit. You must fill out paperwork." Huey laughed. "Paperwork? You never borrowed that stuff." "It has to be done." Through all of this, Kid Cloudkicker did not look up from his seat at the desk of Hire for Hire. The office was, for once, immaculately clean and clear of debris. steadily, quickly working through a stack of papers. Anyway, they can wait. I want to meet you, my brothers. Brother, and a few of my friends. It must be done, was Kid Clocker's reply, as he placed the finished document on the out pile and received a blank one for the in file. Louis raised an eyebrow and whispered to Huey, "Real side players player you got there, Huey." "Quiet!" He turned to the bear. "Come on, old man. You ain't gonna say hi?" "It must be done. Personal matters may come at my own time." But, old man." Huey's hackles began to rise. This was obviously something new. "It must be done." He finished another document and retrieved a blank one from the in-pile. "Stop saying that! What's wrong?" Huey ran around the desk and touched Kit Cocker on the arm. "You feeling all right?" "Productivity in the community is up 16%. I am all right." "Listen, Huey, I'm glad to see someone with such a wonderful work ethic, but is there a phone around here?" Dewey's eyes started towards the disconcerting figure at the desk, then back to Huey. "I'd like to get a hold of someone in Duckburg. Try to see where I stand in all this." "Sir Dewey, here." Huey began to raise up the phone. An old rotary phone, to bring towards Dewey, when a large, green-brown hand slanted back on the table. "What the hell, old man?" "No personal calls." "What?" "No personal calls. This is community time." There was silence. Huey's brand of silence was just a little bit angrier than the others. His face showed it. Dewey cleared his throat. I can find another phone." He had to quickly back out of the room. "No need to worry about it." Motivated partly by the need to find a working phone, and the need to get out of the creepy atmosphere of the room, Dewey turned and walked briskly out of the shack. The midday rush of people had started by the time Dewey found, suspiciously passed by a payphone out in the street. On his search for a phone, he didn't stop to drop a dime on. He began to look around at all the people, mostly native islanders, with a few old white men like Cow Clicker still kicking around. Dewey had to say he was puzzled. It was around lunchtime, and everyone walked towards the large souterrains set up on every corner of the city. See that everyone in the entire city was taking their lunch at that exact same moment, regardless of what job they had to do. The men, and it was almost entirely men, lined up at the soup stands, standing rail straight and looking straight ahead at the back of the head in front of them. Each man who took a bowl wandered off, the line shortened by one, and every man in it took a single, uniform step, shortening the line by one man. The overall effect was a big clockwork device, with bowls of soup instead of cuckoos. Dewey began to sweat as he wandered along among the men, who conspicuously paid him no mind. In his nice, if not clean, executive suit and tie, he stood out among these vinyl and works-clad men like a sore thumb, and his constant looking around contrasted horribly with the dead, unfocused vision of each man taking his soup. "Something funny is going on here," thought Dewey, "and I at least hope someone will let me use the phone for free." Suddenly, there was a piercing steam whistle. Dewey covered his ears and gasped, looking around for the source. Every man's gaze, formerly unfocused and nearly dead, suddenly snapped back on a light bulb. As a man, they all walked back with a resolute purpose to the soup turreens, depositing their empty bowls on the table, before walking in a couple hundred directions towards whatever job they needed to continue. The entire dance caused Dewey to scratch his head in puzzlement, wondering if he could grab up a couple of these devoted, yet creepy, workers on the cheap. Then there was a scream. Dewey looked around, in a sea of men walking towards the sidewalks. There was a single figure walking in the opposite direction, swimming against the tide of workers. It broke away from the crowd, falling to the ground like a gutter before scrambling to his feet. It was an orangutan, bright red fur all over and arms for days. He was quite young, and looked quite fit. He had freckles drawn all over his face and bare shoulders. He pumped his legs, running towards Dewey Duck with resolute purpose, quite opposite from the calm determination of the soulless ones he ran among. "You!" he cried, grasping Dewey by the hands and falling to his knees. "Thank goodness! Thank goodness!" What's going on? I don't know. It just started. Everyone started. They're mindless. I can't. You gotta help. I can't. It started." Dewey gave him a right cracker across the cheek, snapping him out of his stumbling stupor. Before he spoke again, "What's going on here?" "I don't know. We just woke up one morning and everyone was like this. Nobody speaks to each other." Tears of fear began to form in the young man's eyes. "We all thought it would pass, but it spreads. It's like a disease." What is? What's going on around here? Help me. You're the first person I've seen in days. You just flew in that plane, right? Please. He grabbed a hold of my pals in the duck's jacket. Please, take me with you. I don't want to turn into lamb. Turn into? Dewey looked around, touching the man shaking hands. Don't worry, I can get help. Oh God, oh please, help me! Suddenly, the man's eyes began to roll up in the back of his head, hands gripping Dewey's jacket tightly like vices. Before the ape's entire body began to convulse. Dewey tried to call for help as the man, attached to his clothes, worked through a severe seizure. Gently, Dewey grabbed the man by the shoulders and laid him down, alternating between crying for someone to come, getting to call down yelling at him. Soon, the convulsions subsided, grip on the lapels loosened. Man's arms and limbs fell simply to the side. Dewey felt worse. Mister, hey, wake up! Don't die on me! He took the speed man by the shoulders, trying to rouse him awake. Come on, you gotta tell me what's going on. Quick as lightning, a hand shot up to grab Dewey's wrist, causing his heart to skip a beat. His eyes were glazed and unmoving, exactly like the men waiting in line for soup before. Nothing's going on. Productivity in the community just raised 2.2%. Without another word, and no fighting for Dewey, the ape stood, behind the empty sense of task and purpose had been summoned by the steam whistle, before he turned and began to walk steadily towards his job. Dewey sat in the gutter, eyes in wide vague terror. For a moment he'd forgotten the phone. He just wanted to get help. Ran back towards Hire for Hire, hoping to tell his brother, and even more hopefully, that superhero seemed right up his alley. Him? Here? The clear glass bowl was filled to the sides with cool water, and the faintest drop of ink was revealed the mysteries of all time and space. And it focused his all-seeing vision on the form of a blue-clad duck with feathery chops on either side of his beak. No, not him. And yet, I sense some kind of great power in this one. Could it be one of the three Brents? No consequences. Nothing can interrupt my plan. Nothing. Slam! The door for Hire to Hire opened, rattling the door frame. Dewey stood in the archway, looking around quickly. The office was empty, devoid of both family and friends, with only a half-worked-through pile of papers to show that someone was here. Huey? He called out of the lonely office. Ghost, are you here? He began to step inside, letting the voice slowly close behind him. His fingers itched for a trigger to grasp on, in case of an ambush. But at last, he left Scrooge's musket in the sea duck. His voice cracked a bit. Miss Vanderquick? He jumped in a mile of the air as he heard the piercing tone of a steam whistle outside, thus ever so subtly different from the whistle he had heard at once. Ran to the nearest window and looked out. He nearly dropped to the floor in a sight of surprise. Moored to the docks, dwarfing all the boats and airplanes, severely moored over Old Lagoon, a massive black carrier floating in the water. The boat was big enough for a small town to live in for several months. The width of his hull couldn't even fit through the thin canyon on a good day. Dewey thought of such things for a moment, before having the presence of mind to duck down under the window frame, as it seems an entire army unloaded onto the island. An invasion! The soldiers were predominantly Boers in bright identical red uniforms. Dewey recognized the flag hanging above a small country adjacent to the Soviet Union, which had been able to avoid getting absorbed into the Union proper, having cast out a treaty early in the USSR's life, being a good little Bolshevik colony. It was Zimbria. As the men marched down to the shore, another tightly packed army was marching past them. They were all in civilian clothes, but walked in step, two by two, as if they were the most precision-trained army in the world. The townspeople of Cape Cassette, under some strange power, began to march their way to the ship. Then Dewey saw a flash of bright red and green. Next to each other, Huey and the Green Fan marched side by side, followed by Webbigail. All of them had that empty look about their eyes, letting Dewey know that whatever was going on had happened to them as well. He watched. Both armies stopped. A small man in a high-ranking uniform broke off from the group, pulsing the line of motionless civilians. He came to the nearest one in order. He dutifully bent over. The short man inspected the civilian's teeth. He seemed to nod and gave a gesture. The entire line of plainclothes people began to march and step towards the ship. There was a sweat on Dewey's brow as he thought quickly. He had to get onto that ship. He could let his brother and P.A. get kidnapped by communists, and even that other guy deserved a shot. Stepping lightly, he was soon out the door, spotting a long procession of afflicted civilians walking towards a black ship. He slowed down his gait to match the brisk pace of a marching line and began to walk alongside, keeping his eye on the line of workers. As he slided closer, he put the tight line of people who was too close to him allowing access. "Stop!" yelled a voice. The entire lane screamed to a halt as a short officer walked up. "We got a striker!" Another, lower-ranking officer walked up.
"Kind of puny, isn't he? Think he'll be any use?"
"Probably a mole anyway," he yelled at the entire line. Dewey struggled not to fuss out. "Make room! Make room!" The line gave a little hiccup, creating a little space for Dewey to enter from away, a novel way. Fighting back his nerves, he entered the line, and was soon letting himself get swept by the river of humanity, back onto the ship of Thembria. After marching forever, indeed to keep track of his ship several times to avoid detection, Dewey and the others came to a halt in front of his team of inspectors. Each one looked down the line, writing down each civilian's measurements, as if for a new set of clothes. As he went down the line, the sergeant officer spoke with his men. "Well, comrades, today is a glorious day for the great state of Thembria." He began to pace back and forth in front of his troops as he spoke. "Today we will get to the little-known American settlement, easily and painlessly with little effort. Soon we can expect the Grand High Marshal's infallible master plan to begin." The inspectors were getting very close now to Dewey. He noted that as they sized up an orangutan, that they took great pains not to let themselves be touched by the bare skin of the afflicted. The Sergeant General continued. "Is everyone clear on the master plan?" There was a general murmur of agreement.
Duh. I don't remember the master plan.
"Who said that?" The officer jumped up and down, raising his men. "Come forward! Who had the gall to forget to give the Supreme Grand High Marshal's master plan? You would be shot for this, for the honor of the Thembrian memory everywhere!" Nobody stepped forward. Dewey had done his best to speak without moving his beak, stared straight ahead, trying to look dead inside. "Line, we'll go over it step by step." He snapped his fingers. A small entourage of destitute servants started out and set up a large canvas. On it was written the Grand High Marshal's master plan. "Can everyone see?" "Turn it to a little to the left," called Dewey, trying to sound like a Thembrian. "Who said that?" The officer grabbed the nearest soldier and began to punch him in the gut hard. "It's also to you, was it? Speak up!" By the time he had finished, the private was coughing up blood, but the officer was convinced it wasn't him. "Fine!" From his vantage point, Dewey could see what looked like a sickle and hammer, arrows pointing towards the shape of various countries. Beside the countries, arrows estimated from one set of pointing coastlines, supposedly where Thembria would land, eventually covered the entire country. "Step 1. We land discreetly near the coastlines of the following countries." He pointed out England, France, Canada, Japan, India, Australia, and especially, he said this next part with seeming help of relish, the Imperial Satan, the USA!
"Yes, comrade!"
yelled the Thembrians as one. "Step 2. We activate the symbol." This step was accompanied by a point towards a creased hammer and sickle.
"Yes, comrade!"
"Step 3. We place our moves on the coastal cities, allow our ideology to spread through the magic of Rasputin." The officer let his pointer travel across the various arrows. "And massacre cause those afflicted to think nothing but communist thoughts and act communist actions. They will become the building blocks for the workers' paradise that was the dream of Marx, Lenin, or Stalin."
"Yes, comrade!"
"And step 4 is?"
"Take over the world! All hail Thembria!"
You know, when I was a kid, I thought this guy was silly, and I never knew of the communist ideologies that were in this show when it came to Tailspin. Now I am. I'm seeing it all over the place on Thembria. Dewey was sure that this had nothing but a horse baloney, but the evidence on his eyes was better than that of instinct. The men lined up on either side of him, dead to the world except as the never-ending work machines, were proof that whatever this symbol was, it had some kind of power. Suddenly, there was a scream. "I don't see him! I don't see him!" The entire room went wild, as the other inspectors scrambled to get away from the screaming Thembrian, and the officers started out to get everyone under control. Okay, this is a Disney product, and I would feel remiss if I didn't make this joke. 2913! 2913! Slam! There's your Monsters Inc. reference for today. W3950. Eventually, the screamer had a blanket thrown over him so he would not touch anyone, was spirited away to this obscure part of the ship. Once he was gone, Thurmbeer's soldiers, hiding all around the room, began to come out. Get out of here, cowards! He's gone! The officer yelled, waving his fist at his fearful crew. Let that be a lesson to you all. Touch even one, and the massacre of the simple will overtake you, and while surrendering ourselves to become indispensable cogs in the wheel of society as our ultimate goal as a people. We must ever stay vigilant, so we may deliver others to our way of thinking. He nodded and crossed his arm. All the more reason to move on with our grand high master's plan. We all know your plots. We will move out of here in 3 hours. Dismissed! In every direction, the debris is dispersed. It was only until a line of civilians and the officer knew we continued on with Herod, a thistle pace. This time in front of them, unmoving, unseeing victims of their plot. Dewey had to struggle not to follow him with his eyes. Find something productive to do and follow our orders. Dismissed! As Dewey began to disperse with the others, he noted that the Thimbrian had been touched before had been discreetly added to their ranks. Dewey looked down at his wrist, where he had been touched by the orangutan. If it's so contagious, why hadn't he been changed? It's only a matter of time before he, the de facto richest duck in the world, turned red once and for all. The cold steel of the floor gave out light taps as Dewey wandered around the ship, trying to look busy, while also trying to overhear something useful. He realized something there, that to the people with means, the helpful can look less invisible. After a while, he realized he didn't even need to try to look busy. As long as he kept moving, holding a broom, nobody would bother him. He passed the large door that he heard whispering through, counting on his new powers of invisibility. He entered and proceeded to sweep up, nothing near the entrance of the door. The room was some kind of science lab. Within, he saw 2 Thembrians in white lab coats, having a hurried argument. I see this one is particularly ridiculous, said one. There is absolutely no possible way having that thing at the ship could possibly make the Americans spin to our rear. There must be some other trick to it. No, comrade, said another. It is magic. We don't have to explain it. Grrr. Magic. Pah! I see that the court lizard, or whatever is bad news. He is taking offense to the Grand Castle and Fernstars to enact his plans. Comrade, so stuck is the reason. I don't care. There's no one else here. Nobody ever comes to see us. The young scientist began to lean his elbows on the desk. Judging from the dartboards and various other time wasters, the 2 did not have much to do on the expedition. The state magician is the reincarnation of the great Rasputin. In the body of an Italian, we must not hold such doubt that has been told to us by the Grand High Master's government. All right, the other said. But still, if I had my mind right, I would go down to the cargo hold 3 and run the test of that thing once and for all, and see if this magic really exists or not. Even if you were allowed, you would never come back yourself. Even getting near that simple thing causes your mind to change. Both scientists sighed. Want to play Monopoly? As the 2 scientists went to get the board game, Dewey was already out the door, rushing down to cargo hold 3. It's simple as down there. It certainly would be destroyed. Speed walking through the halls, broom firmly in hand, Dewey went down towards the cargo areas. As he passed down to the odd soldier that would wander by, his heart would skip a beat, but his broom was his shield. Nobody would pay any mind until he thought he was already busy. However, even that couldn't stop everybody. You there! Halt! He stopped, turning slowly, trying to look as hypnotized as possible. Mop and bucket were thrown towards him, clattering to the floor. Clean up the cell! It's filthy! Dewey, with not much choice, nodded and picked up the mop and bucket. The Threbian, giving him the job, turned around to walk away from the duck. Thinking fast, Dewey's eyebrows gave a twitch. Clang! There was now a dent in the hard bucket as it bounced off the Thimbrian's head. It collapsed to a heap on the ground. Dewey dropped the mop and bucket on the floor and continued on his way. What is that? Cried a voice, to Dewey's horror. A kid from over there! No more pretending. The jig was up. He ran, full tilt towards the stairs, heading towards the cargo holds. There he goes! Get him! The loud pops of guns pursued him as he ran. He jumped onto the railing of the stairs and slid down it quickly, colliding with another patrolling Thimbrian at the bottom, knocking him off his feet. Dewey swore loudly and stood up before anyone could recover. And he gave a quick look over his shoulder and counted at least 5 men pursuing him. Looking back forward, he hoped that the cargo holds were close. Lo and behold, he found that Billy jumped down another flight of stairs, attracting the ire of a few more Brandvian soldiers, when he noticed the tall, wide doors of a ship's cargo. He counted 1, 2, 3, and ducked inside the door. In the new room, he looked around until he found a large, heavy crate, and ran to the other side of it, pushed, steadily moving in front of the door, trapping himself inside the Thermians out. He then turned around, and had to shade his eyes from what he saw. It shone bright red and gold, obscuring its form from its own dazzling light. He had to shade his eyes, as it hard to look directly into the gaze of light and color assaulting his vision. He could see a glass case surrounding for whatever it was. It was faintly hypnotic. This light, he couldn't help but begin walking towards it. He saw that I was tranced by the bangs and scrapes of the door. Thermians were trying to get in, impeded by the heavy grate holding the door closed. Dewey gulped and looked back towards the shining light. He needed to destroy it. Maybe then everyone would go back to normal. He took a step forward, and then another, then another. As he looked towards the symbol, he could see something inside his head, like a finger poking where it doesn't belong. He shook his head, trying to get the feeling out, but he couldn't shake it. As he came closer, the feeling got stronger. It's the symbol's power, he thought in horror. It's changing me like it's changed everyone else. He held his head, trying to will the invasive headache he was developing as his instincts fought against the communist reprogramming. He took another step and could feel a strange alien urge rise up in his head, an urge to distribute his wealth among the lower classes. He could feel his feathers standing on end as his mind raced to scroll such thoughts. Suddenly, he could hear a buzzing and feel a strange vibration in his pockets. No matter, he had to destroy the symbol. It was close, close enough to touch, and yet he fell. His body suddenly going into convulsions as the disconnect between his mind and body began to get larger. He fought for control over himself. He managed to hug his arms to himself, trying to get under control. Suddenly, he could hear him laughing. The voice had a strange quality to it, as if it was being run backwards through a tape player, yet was perfectly understandable. "Dearly Duck, the last of the brats," taunted the voice. "Soon, too, you will be under my power." His mouth tried to form the right words. "Who?" His eyes darted around. There was nothing there. "You should know by now that there's nothing in the world that can resist this seductive energy. Soon you will be one of my slaves, still a prisoner of foolish ideology, but now of one that is alien and foreign to you, a fate worse than death." This caused Dewey to uncoil his arms and resume trying to crawl towards the symbol. "Ha! You could barely walk, boy! What makes you think you could do that to my beautiful symbol? Face it, you are being absorbed in the collective. Do not fight. Just give in." The voice took on a seductive quality, and Dewey had to struggle not to listen. He could feel it. The ideas, the images, the urges. He could feel himself slipping away. He slowly lowered himself to the floor, unable to support his body with trembling arms, and the voice laughed horribly. "Must not distribute wealth. Must not accept equal salary for unequal work. Must not give fealty to the worker." He struggled to move beyond a convulsion, and tried to think capitalist thoughts, thinking back to the magic of seeing the money bin for the first time, hearing about Uncle Screw's adventures, becoming the richest duck in the world, traveling around the world, being better, faster, smarter, and harder than any other guy, being tougher than the toughies and sharper than the sharpies, and all along the way making it square. Suddenly, he thought of his uncle, at least how he always pictured him for that portrait of him in the mansion, dressed as a prospector, bandages wrapped around his feet instead of shoes, a set of clothes mostly trapped and skinned himself. Uncle Scrooge walked through the driving snow of northern Canada towards a white Agony Creek, where he made his first million prospecting gold. I love that photo. He imagined his uncle holding a large, mud-covered stone, dipping into a pool, and pulling out a perfectly round hunk of solid gold ore. The scene of Dewey's fevered dream changed suddenly into a memory of a few months before. The driving snow changed to a scene of hot, wet greenery. The visits of his uncle's winter shack changed to a visit of a tent and a campsite at the foot of a hill. An inspection Dewey had conducted, all alone, on a site in India. Dressed in a pith helmet and light khakis, he wielded a shovel on a patch of ground laid bare at the foot of a small mountain. brought up a bucket of dirt and stone, and hauled it towards a hastily set up sluice connected to a nearby river. Dumped the dirt down the chute, and quickly weighted the bomb with a pan, like an old prospectors of old days. In his pan, he saw glittering dust. Not much, but enough to let him know that this site was worth exploring further. "So I stayed?" he thought, sully reality warping him away as he escaped into his memories. Was it the right thing to leave so soon after? Uncle Scrooge was killed, and I had to go back to Duckburg. Huey had to escape the country. Uncle Donald disappeared. Louie and I took over the company. I had no time to go back. Was it right to send other men in my place? Dig up the gold I had found? Is it really my gold anymore? Am I just not a good man, Scrooge McDuck? Suddenly, he knocked away from his own stupor violently, by a painful burning sensation in his pocket. He yelled out, and noticing the voice was still laughing. The stream had only lasted for a moment, on his own. His hand reached down into the pocket of his jacket, moved to a case, containing something buzzing and vibrating. "What?" his voice began, as Dewey started to stand up. "It's not possible," Dewey screamed, raising a glass case in the air. He set the small case down, smashing into the glass case as a symbol of communism, sending the glass showering everywhere. Dewey's hand was cut to ribbons and began to bleed, but he paid it no attention. He simply searched the glass shards for what saved him. He reached down and picked up the tiny dime. It was quickly shaking violently, and the communist magic permeating the room. As he touched it, it burned his fingers, but was far too gone to care, thankful for any sensation at all. The burn quickly spread up his arm, and ceased being painful for so soon after. It was a warming sensation, and in his wake, his arms and legs and body ceased convulsing and wobbling. Once it reached his head, any thought of letting his wealth get away simply melted away. He was the master of what he owned, and he was the only one responsible for it, for better or for worse. "No! It can't be! The dime! The #1 dime! It's constantly my magic!" The voice sounded terrified, began to scream as it faded away to nothing. With a dime in hand, Dewey reached into the shattered case with the other, a less lacerated hand, grasped a symbol, which he could suddenly see for what it was, with the haze of magic suddenly gone. It was a glowing red hammer, crossed with a glowing golden sickle. He grasped the handles and pulled them out of the broken case. As he touched them, a cold, clammy sensation snuck up his other arm, before being fought back by the glow of the dime. He dropped the twin tools on the ground before he fell to his knees, and grasped the hammer with both hands. Using one tool, he took careful aim at the other before bringing the heavy head down on the sharp blade. Almost instantly, the blade cracked. In another impact, the blade broke altogether, and a golden glow dispersed into the air. The red glow of the hammer simply disappeared when Dewey broke the handle over his knee. Dewey breathed deeply, staring at the debris of the two farm tools. He suddenly felt very lightheaded, and looked down at his hand. It was cut deeply, but the biggest danger was loss of blood, and maybe scars. Using his offhand, Dewey picked stray bits of glass out of his hand. Too numb to even wince into pain, he then took off his tie quickly, and wrapped it around the blade hand, trying to stymie the flow of blood. With a moment for himself before the Thamburians broke in and entered him, looked down at the dime and sat down to the ground, thought back to his uncle and smiled, thanking him for having saved every coin he had ever earned. Then he saw the dime stamp of the dime, 1967. Crash! The grate was suddenly knocked aside, and envelopes of people poured in. However, Dewey was too woozy to care, and holding his hand a death grip around the dime, he drifted off to sleep, a dream of buying hundreds of dimes from his claim in the jungle, waving hello to his young Uncle Scrooge, doing the same in the Agony Creek across the way. He woke up hours later, and saw faces looming over him. His hands rusted up, and he punched the nearest one straight in the jaw. "Yo! Dewey, it's me! It's us!" cried the Green Phantom as he nursed his aching beak. Dewey sat up, rail straight, and took in the scene. It was Huey, GP, that guy, Kit Codkicker, and Webigail. Webby had bloody bandages in her hand. She was looking distractedly at Dewey's hand. He looked at himself and noticed that his hand was being held together by imposing black wires, like Frankenstein's monster. "Oh,
Hold still.
Webby said, throwing away the old man's fancy new ones. "You'll rip your stitches." So he carefully wrapped up Dewey's hand, being careful to place gauze between the bandages and wounds. "What happened?" Huey laughed. "You tell us. We all just woke up on some crazy ship. Everyone rallied together to escape. GP and I found you unconscious in the cargo hold. We dragged you off the ship, just before some magic pixie dust made it fly away over to the high wall. Now, you tell us. What were you doing here?" Dewey breathed deeply and proceeded to tell them everything. About the voice, the dime, the symbol, and even began to elaborate on his half-remembered dream of mining diamonds along with their great-uncle. The green fan scratched his head. Well, I'll be. The large brown bear then began to speak for himself.
Well, I wish it were better circumstances. But nice to meet Huey's family. He talks about you all enough.
Dewey turned his head towards the kid and nodded. Mr. Cloudkicker, I presume?
Yep, I own that heap you've been running around in. I also run higher for hire.
He chuckled.
Considering your circumstances, I will charge you for the 3 trip to Rio.
Dewey gulped down some saliva, imagining how much a plane ride to Rio from Duckburg would cost. Thanks. He looked around his now mummified hand. A horrible thud struck him. Where's my dime? Gloomgill smiled kindly.
Don't worry, Dewey. It's still right here.
So he reached into his jacket and pulled out the dime, which had been attached to the inside of his pocket, securely with a bit of string.
And Uncle Scrooge's dime is still in its case.
Green fan across his arms.